Hello friends from all over the world. Welcome to Update 29. There are a couple things to talk about today. Darren Monahan has been nice enough to write up a bunch of answers to support questions that people have asked. So please check the written update for the details on those. I'm not going to go into them. It's all Darren Magic Man stuff that I don't know anything about. It's mechanics time. In the written update, I talk about the armor system. The armor system in itself is not necessarily a huge challenge, but it can be used as an example for a lot of the types of questions that we ask ourselves when we're designing mechanics for Project Eternity. It might seem surprising that something like armor would pose a lot of challenges or questions for us because, hey, the Infinity Engine games had armor, just figure it out, dummies. But it's not really that simple. We want to make the best use that we can of the fact that we're using a real-time with pause system. We don't have to adhere to rounds. We don't have to do math that's simple arithmetic. We can also do complex, fancy things that you probably would not want to do in real time at a table when you're actually playing with your friends. Things like percentile operators. You don't really want to divide things by crazy numbers and get fractions and figure out what to do with that stuff. Usually. So we want to be able to make the best game that we can, but we also want to be true to the spirit of the games that we're sort of being inspired by. And that poses some challenges because when we come up with a new system, we sometimes have to reorganize the content. If we use damage reduction instead of armor class for armor, and we reorganize the armor, will people suddenly ask themselves, hey, why is hide armor better than leather? Does that actually make any sense for protecting you from damage? Why does this armor give you these bonuses and these penalties? Things that you sort of take for granted in D&D because they've always been part of D&D aren't necessarily part of Project Eternity. So we have to think a lot about what player expectations are. We have to think a lot about what the best sort of mechanics are. When we can find a way to merge the feeling of the old games with really good mechanics and matching the expectations of players, that's ideal. It's not easy, and it's not always clear how to do that. So I go into a lot of the details in the update. Again, the details I give are not necessarily specific problems that, like, oh man, we're all hung up on armor, but they're indicative of the type of questions that we ask ourselves when we're designing this stuff. And hopefully it gives you some insight into the way that we're approaching system design. Also, I hope it gives you inspiration for things that you would like to talk about on our message boards. As I've said previously, we get a lot of insight, I say is probably the best way to put it. We learn a lot from you guys when you talk about, and the way in which you talk about how you want mechanics to appear, things that you like or don't like, things that capture the feeling of the old games, things that if you didn't see them, if they went away forever, you would be sad for the rest of your life. And we know that we can't make everyone happy, but sometimes in seeing the discussions and the ideas that people come up with, it does help us understand a viewpoint that we don't necessarily see as we're developing things. So please take a look at the sort of problems that I discuss in the text of the update, and keep the questions and comments coming. It's going to be very valuable in the months to come as we flesh out more of these systems. We're going to be having more answers to support questions coming from Darren in the near future. Also, fulfillment questions, questions about the actual Kickstarter pledges and how those are going to be fulfilled and things like that. Again, this is Magic Man land. I don't know anything about it. It's all Darren and his crazy world, the crazy world of Darren. So thanks for watching. Keep the questions and the comments coming, and thanks again for your support.